One of the greatest tragedies that happens to the children of Israel, God's chosen people, is in the Old Testament when the kingdom is divided between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. They were one kingdom under King David, and when his son came to power, King Solomon, he was wise, but then he started to listen rather to his wives from different countries and started to offer worship to foreign gods. And that's never a good thing. He failed to listen to the Lord, who told him, "You should not worship any other God but me." And so the result of that is this divided kingdom. It's a good image, I think, for each of us individually, also as our families, our community, our parishes, our country. Whenever we start to worship something that is less than God himself, there's division that occurs. Division in our own hearts when we start to worship something like money, when we start to worship something like power, comforts, pleasures, the approval of men rather than the approval of God. When those things start to become more important to us than our worship of God himself, there is a division because our nature is to worship God. We are meant for that, for a relationship with him, and so it is a dividing thing. It's divisive whenever we worship something that's other than God. Yet, God is always calling us back to communion. He's always calling us back to open our ears to hear his voice. We see him do that beautifully today in the healing of a deaf man in our gospel. How he takes him aside, he even puts his fingers into his ears and says, "Ephphatha," that is, be opened. But we know that every time there is a physical healing, it's meant for a more spiritual purpose. It's meant to go beyond just the physicalness of it, but rather to bring us back into communion with God, to open the ears of those who have fallen asleep, to open our ears so that we might hear God's voice and return to him with all of our hearts. We celebrate as well today Our Lady of Lourdes, where she appeared to the girl Bernadette. She appeared 18 times to her and told her, gave her the message of prayer, to pray for sinners, to do penances for them, and that all might be turned back to the Lord. Our Lady always points us to her son, Jesus. She's always asking us to listen to his voice. So it's another sign for us to return to the Lord. In what ways has your heart been divided? In what ways has there been division in your family, in your community, because of worshiping something other than God himself? We ask the Lord today to break through all of those walls that we put up and to let his voice be heard clearly in our lives so that we might return to the proper worship of God alone, the one who created each of us in pure love.